Baby, it's cold outside. So come on in, my friends, and warm yourself under the breath of Gamera, friend to all children. Because in this collection we have not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 Gamera movies with Mystery Science Theater, Volume 21, also known as MST3K versus the Mighty Gamera. And because we have 5 movies this time instead of 4, we're going to be rating them on a scale of 0 through 25, with each movie going from 1 to 5. Not SOL bones this time, but shells. That's right. In honor of Gamera, we're going to be rating these movies on the SOL shell scale. So without further delay, I give you the Mighty Gamera today. First up, we have Gamera from Season 3, but before that, we get the Invention Exchange. Joel and the bots give us the container that holds a limited supply of salad, perfect for cleaning up at the all-you-can-eat salad bar. As God is my witness, you'll never go hungry again for salad. Dr. Forster and TV's Frank shows off the vacuum specifically designed for cleaning up the bird cages without removing the bird. Spoiler alert, the bird dies. Gamera, pronounced like camera but spelled differently, is a 1965 Japanese monster flick originally shown on MST3K's Season K. The movie sees an unknown aircraft being shot down by an American jet fighter in the Arctic. The crash causes radiation due to a low-level atomic bomb being a part of the cargo. The radiation awakens a prehistoric giant turtle known as Gamera. Gamera destroys the American jet with his stinky and fiery dragon's breath because he gets a little cranky when he first wakes up. Gamera destroys a sea vessel with the only survivors being Dr. Hidaka, his daughter Catherine, and a reporter named Alex. Dr. Hidaka was given a devil's stone earlier by an Inuit chieftain, who explained what Gamera is. Being bored with all this Arctic, Gamera heads to Japan because every giant monster needs to destroy things in that country at least once to be considered legit. A boy named Kenny releases his own pet turtle at his father's demandings, while Gamera releases fury on a Japanese city named Fujisawa. Gamera saves Kenny from falling from a lighthouse before going back into the city to prove he's not all that bad a guy. Scientists and government officials discuss killing the giant monster turtle, but conventional weapons prove useless against Gamera's mighty shell, colossal size, and mighty stinky dragon's breath. Experimental freeze bombs are then used. The bombs knock Gamera on his back. In this position, the scientists and government officials decide he can just starve to death. Well, sure, he destroyed much of the city, but that's a cruel way to go. Gamera pulls his head, limbs, and tails into his shell and emits flames. He flies off like a giant glowing disc golf frisbee. Kenny and his family goes to stay with his uncle in Tokyo due to their home being destroyed. And Kenny explains to the professor that Gamera isn't evil, just lonely. Aww. Gamera goes to Tokyo and destroys things because it's cliched and every monster must do that. He wreaks havoc there, destroying the Tokyo Tower, and Kenny and his family must evacuate again. Really, Gamera? Accidentally or not, Timmy's on your side, dude. In the end, a plan known as Z-Plan is underway as Gamera is lured into the nose of a giant rocket and launched to Mars. With him being Mars's problem now, the resident aliens give Earth the universal California howdy middle finger salute. Kenny decides he isn't sad that Gamera is now on Mars because he decides to become a scientist one day and build a ship that can take him to see his shelled brother from another mother. Mike J. Nelson appears in a host segment in this episode as Gamera himself, and he is somehow not turtly enough for the Turtle Club. Turtle, turtle! Gamera and his origins of shelled fury gets their start here in a long line of Gamera movies to be shown in Season 3 of MST3K for 4 out of 5 SOL shells. Up next is Gamera vs. Barugon as our Gamera party continues, but first is the invention exchange. Joe invents an animatronic soda can for PSAs, and they remind me of the cans that wore shades and danced to rock music from the late 80s and early 90s. Dr. Forrester and TV's Frank introduced a disco cumber bubble bun. Say that 5 times fast, bubble buddy. Finally, an exercise device for all those Lawrence Welk fans out there. Now, on to the movie. Gamera is back, and this time he is in living color and is on our side as he fights off the giant part lizard, part dog named Barugon. Gamera's rocket that was to transport him to Mars collides with a meteorite, and this frees Gamera to return to Earth. And this is good timing too, since a treasure hunter brings back a giant opal to Japan that turns out to be an egg, which Gamera has the power to doggy lizard thing. Barugon can shoot out ice blasts from his lizard-like tongue, freezing everything it comes into contact with. Barugon can also shoot out destructive rainbows from his butt. It ain't a pot of gold or Skittles at the end of these rainbows either. Gamera is frozen in ice a great deal of this movie thanks to bad boy Barugon. Eventually, Gamera thaws out and drowns Barugon in a lake. Giant doggy lizards don't like baths either. For a Gamera movie, this has an appalling lack of Gamera in it. Joe suspects he might have been directing most of this flick, which could explain his lack of camera time. For a lack of our fire-breathing, great half-shelled hero, and for being relentlessly talky for a good portion of the movie, this one scores only a 3 out of 5 SOL shells. Third up is Gamera vs. Gaos. The invention exchange sees the match showing off the self-image printer showing a person's true person. Joe creates the fax machine Kleenex dispenser. It's not your ordinary box of Kleenexes, and that's a fax. Now, on to the movie. Gamera vs. Gaos is a 1967 flick which sees Gamera battling his battiest foe as a huge vampire bat monster called Gaos rises from a volcanic eruption. Gaos can shoot ultrasonic yellow laser beams, and he also has a hunger for blood in true vampiric fashion. Gamera battles his toughest foe to date with this batty beast and is injured twice by his beams, forcing him to retreat. A boy named Itchy cheers Gamera as Itchy has an itch for violence and wants to see Gaos be turned into bat burgers. The military is unsuccessful using flamethrowers on Gaos, who fans them out with his giant 200-plus foot wings. Scientists figure out the only way to defeat Gaos is by sunlight. In what is perhaps one of the weirdest and wackiest traps ever devised that would make Scrappy-Doo blush in shame, the scientists place a blood-like substance on top of a rotating restaurant in hopes to make Gaos dizzy while he tries to drink the fake blood. Their plan fails when the revolving restaurant mechanism breaks and Gaos escapes.
Honey, could you hand me that Birds of Japan book?
Finally, Gamera appears for a third time to the charm battle and forces Gaos to fly close to the sun, thus defeating this Count Chocula man-bat-hell spawn. The movie also has 3 of the most goofily dubbed guys in cinema history. Meet the Japanese Three Stooges.
Jack, you 2 want to move out now?
Of course not. Neither of us is afraid of the monster, so why should we leave?
Yeah, why should we go? You're not the least afraid of the old monster. He doesn't.
This Gamera movie ups the ante with an even more annoyingly difficult foe for Gamera to defeat. Gamera gets more camera time in this one as opposed to the Gamera vs. Barugon movie, and this one packs in more monster action for a 5 out of 5 SOL shells. One video for Gamera simply won't do. He's a big boy after all. Join me soon for part 2 as Gamera versus Gyron and Zigra. It's gonna be huge.